Hey, today we're going to make some hardwood propagation stations out of exotic zebrawood. Alright, so first thing you're going to need is some zebrawood. Who would have guessed? Now zebrawood isn't very easy to find. It's an import. It's kind of expensive. It's more expensive than domestics like walnut and maple, but it's really unique looking, so I think it's probably worth the cost. One thing to keep in mind with zebrawood is it tends to split a lot as it's drying. So what you want to look for is this. A lot of lumber yards will put this on the end grain to prevent the zebrawood from splitting. I think it's like some kind of wax paint or something like that. It mostly does the job. So if you have that on there, probably you're not going to have a lot of cracks in there. If you do have big cracks in the wood, it kind of becomes unusable a lot of the times. So what I did here is I found a piece of 8/4 zebrawood at my local lumber shop. 8/4 means it's nominally 2 inches thick. Really comes out to about 1.75 once it's planed and surfaced and everything like that, which is good enough. What I did here is I cut it into pieces that are about 5 inches wide and around 3 inches tall. So what I'm doing here is I'm using a saddle T-square in order to mark out the center of the block, as well as to mark out where to drill 3 equidistant holes for the propagation stations. You can use a woodpecker brand T-square in order to get this done. I don't have $50 million sitting in the bank, so I just got something off of Amazon and it does the job. Alright, next up, all you're going to want to do is use your drill press to drill a few inches down using a forstner bit. I'm using a 1 inch because that's the size test tubes that we have. For this part, you're definitely going to want to wear a mask and some goggles, especially with imports. You do not want to be breathing this dust. I should probably plug it in before turning it on. Yeah, that definitely does help. Alright, so zebrawood is a very dense and hard wood, which is why my drill press is kind of stalling out a little bit as I'm going through. The key here is just to go very slow and steady, and you probably shouldn't have this problem. And here I realized I should have set up my dust collector from the beginning to get some of that extra sawdust out of the way and prevent it from overheating. Alright, so now last thing we want to do before sanding and finishing this is we want to give it a nice 45-degree cut right here. Show off a little bit of that zebrawood grain. So here I'm just sanding all sides of the propagation stations with 100 grit sandpaper. Normally you would use a belt sander for this, but I don't have one, so I just threw my orbital sander into a vise on my workbench and it gets the job done. And now after getting sanded, these are all nice and smooth and probably not going to give me any more splinters, and they're ready for finishing. Alright, so now after a quick bath in some mineral oil, just to make sure that this is no longer dry and is no longer at risk of cracking, it's time to wipe off the excess mineral oil and coat it with wax, and we are all done. For the wax here, I'm using Walrus Oil's cutting board wax. It works pretty well. It leaves a really nice smooth finish. As for applying the wax, we all remember what Mr. Miyagi taught us. You wax it on and then you wax it off. Wax on, wax off. Easy peasy. And now throw in a few test tubes and some plant cuttings from my wife's indoor garden, and we have ourselves an awesome Zebrawood propagation station. Thanks a lot for watching.